and yeah, all of a sudden you're in a conversation, and then you kind of drop 6 inches as the seat just kind of suddenly jolts down, and then kind of the complete atmosphere is lost, and everyone's kind of burst out laughing.
Yeah, because I've done that quite a few times at work, where I've had a foot behind you got like the 5 legs on your chair, and I've had the foot pinned behind, and then someone's asked me something, I've turned round and left my foot where it was, and then it's just squashed you down, so then you can't move, and then it's 10 minutes of the office just laughing at you while you're trying to wriggle out the chair.
Place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like lifting yourself up on the desk to try and make it move.
Yeah,
so I'm not
I haven't had one of those.
Yeah,
most of my chairs just go down like during the day.
I was gonna say mine's stuck at the highest level. I think to actually get it to go down, I'd have to kind of pull on the lever and bounce on the chair at the same time.
That's a good one.
It's when you start, you find yourself over the course of the day, why am I having to like reach up to my mouse? You end up typing.
Yeah.
Or if you have to share a desk with someone and they're taller or shorter, and they kind of shift it up and down.
Right, they're adjusting everything.
Well, I discovered my previous chair to this one, the gas strut had gone over the course of years, and you can just buy replacement gas struts, but they come in different sizes as well. So I just took a wild stab at whatever size I was expecting it to be, and it was about either 2 inches or 4 inches longer than it should have been for that chair. So I sort of held it up against the other one. It was like, massive difference. But then Duncan from Little Hobby Shop, I managed to send it to him because he bought the same chair as me, and it's because he's about 15 foot tall, so he needed something a little bit higher. So he swapped the gas strut out for the extra long one that I'd found, and even he was saying when he put the chair up to the highest level, his feet were dangling off the bottom.
Oh no!
It was just like super high. It's just sort of like waving around on the top of this.
But will it go down low enough as well? Because I've thought about that. Because my desk behind me is essentially a standing desk, so I can't really use it. Although I've kind of designed it so I can kind of sit at it with a chair if I want. I can lower the monitors. I do have the kind of the original desk. It became a standing desk. Still got the original desk, which if I clear some stuff off it, which obviously is difficult, but if I clear some stuff off it, I still have that kind of original desk. So I can kind of sit at it with this chair, but I can't work at the computer kind of without doing lots of shifting around off this chair. And I have thought a couple of times, well, it'd be nice to, I thought maybe try and get like almost like a bar stool, because that would probably be high enough. But actually maybe getting a gas strut, or getting a gas strut that was just longer.
I think they do make those,
I also need it to be able to come down low enough to sit at this.
You might have to, I suppose you'd probably need to sink it a bit lower so that you had one with a longer throw, a longer travel distance, so that you could then get that shift. But I suppose you're going to get to that fine balance. Then you probably need like an operator's stool for like a draftsman stool.
Yeah,
they're quite good for that.
Right.
For you just end up spinning them around for ages to try and get them to lower down.
Yeah, that's right. I remember those.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be quite good fun. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I thought of modifying. I've got a couple of old science lab stools. I've got a wooden one and I've got a metal one. Metal one lives out in the tinkerage. And I thought, trying to modify that to create a higher stool, because sometimes I want to work at the higher level on that computer, but I want to sit down.
Right.
There's
probably a video. Someone's probably done it already. You can find some inspiration. Izzy Swan's got like a drill powered chair that goes up and down.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's got drill
make
powered
your own.
everything.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm surprised Izzy isn't fully drill powered yet.
Right. Yeah.
Well, he did have that operation, so maybe he is.
Yeah, maybe that's what he got.
Just every now and then he's just got to swap a couple of Bosch batteries out or something.
Yeah.
Just don't ask where he has to plug them in.
Nope. Don't want to know. For sure.
Yeah, no, got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm staying quiet this time.
Dave, hello.
Yes.
Welcome to Maker's Waffle, which for the benefit of the listeners, this is your first podcast.
That's right.
So you're not our first guest. It's their first podcast, but we've had a few. We've had a couple. I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many now. I think 3, or you might be the third. On the first podcast.
Possibly.
Yeah, more than 10%. More than 10% of our guests.
Wow.
Have broken their podcast virginity on Maker's Waffle.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
We try and be gentle,
For sure.
Kiss and a cuddle afterwards.
Okay.
But you're gonna be back on in a couple of weeks' time, aren't you, for episode 30?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well,
I've been taking a bunch of notes
on the list
for that.
Yeah.
So,
which reminds me, I must get in contact with everyone this week just to make sure they're still up for it.
Sure.
And start reminding Steve.
Yes.
Oh yeah. How many times do you have to remind him?
Enough.
We generally don't like to say in public. It's not polite.
But he did turn up on time.
That's good.
Yeah, for his episode.
I almost didn't make it. Yeah.
So we've known each other now for about 18 months. Oh, actually, I think we've probably kind of interacted for longer. But it make us on Zoom having coffee is the kind of group that brought us together during COVID.
That's right. Yeah.
Which kind of a follow on from Vincent last week.
I
think it's nice to see that there's been kind of sort of positive things come out of, which is still a generally crap situation.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely cool to, because we all interact on, Facebook or, comment on someone's Instagram posts, but, we get a lot, more detailed discussions, and just you can get to know people a little bit better.
And we have a cat. We have a cat visitor. So
that would be what, 4th or 5th on the...
Yeah,
we've had more cats on than
first time podcasters. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I didn't plan that, but I guess I didn't get them all out of the room before.
That's all right. We really don't mind. We?
Oh, sure.
It helps the view numbers go up, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Of course. All right, more.
There's the cat so for the benefit of those who are listening on good quality headphones, they may be able to hear the cat purring.
Is it?
No, it's good. No, we don't mind that. It shows that somebody's appreciating it. Yeah.
I don't know how how it's getting picked up. Oh.
Cat purr is quite a distinctive sound and carries quite well, I think.
That's funny. We had I do we do a bunch of training videos and stuff at my work, and we had a dog, and he was an office dog, and he was sleeping, so we didn't want to make him move. He was snoring, and the microphone picked up the snoring better than almost the person who was trying to talk, so we had to redo the whole thing.
Fantastic.
But it was so great. It was wonderful. I always said we should just leave this in for you gotta watch a boring training video, but at least there's a hilarious dog snoring.
Just like cut him in the corner, just as the
Yep. Yeah.
sleeping face.
Yep.
So. It's the sort of thing that people will remember the course for longer.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, because it's unique for sure.
Might not actually take any of the training material in though. Just staring at the dog the whole time.
Oh right, yeah. That's why you have to switch back and forth. You can't. You gotta sprinkle it in. So just to make sure they're awake.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you gotta pay attention to catch it.
Or could it turn into one of that? There's that video, isn't there, with the people playing basketball?
Yep.
And the gorilla walks through, and people are asked to count the number of passes that take place, and completely fail to notice the gorilla walking through because they're concentrating
that's really
on
interesting.
that path. So I wonder if if there's a dog snoring, training video with people kind of focus on the training video or focus on the dog snoring.
Right. Yeah. We'll have at the quiz. We'll see how many times did the dog appear. You can't. So that make sure they stayed awake for the whole thing. Because that's definitely
sounds like a good strategy.
Yeah.
So I used to kind of sometimes use videos in my teaching, and you kind of get a video with something perhaps particularly interesting to a teenage audience.
Right.
And you kind of think, well, I'm going to leave that in. It's not particularly relevant. It's not particularly rude or anything, but I'm going to leave that in and just see if they kind of sort of notice or pay attention. And it sometimes works to kind of have that thing to maybe look out for. I think one of my favourites actually was there was a guy called Dan Osman. He was a climber, and there's a video of him climbing a 400-foot cliff in about 4 minutes.
Wow.
No rope, just soloing up this cliff.
Wow.
And I used to introducing the ideas of things like gravitational potential energy, but also things like power, so the rate of energy transfer. And there's a bit about halfway through the video which is kind of shot from multiple angles where he does a dyno, a leap for a hold, and he's completely off the rock.
Wow.
It's not like kind of I'm going to keep one hand on and then leap up and reach up. He literally pulls with two hands, and there's a shot from above that shows him completely off the rock.
Wow.
And it's like because there's a just before it there's a sort of a zoom out, and you see him kind of the whole cliff, and you can't see him, but then it kind of sort of zooms back in and he's climbing, and you can see that he was about halfway up as they zoom out. So yeah, it's just like that's one to make the kids kind of sort of go, what the
wake right up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it freaks him out. I mean, the guy's dead now. Yeah, he got bored with solo climbing, so he took up rope jumping. So places like Yosemite, he'd set up a Tyrolean traverse with others, so they'd have kind of a rope going horizontally from between kind of a chasm, and then they'd have another rope tied to the middle, and then they jump. And he did one, I think it was something like 800 feet of rope, and they were jumping down big swings, and he decided at the end of the day to go back up for one more jump. The others all decided to go off and go to a party, and he never turned up, and they found him the next morning because the rope had broke.
Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, when you do that type of activity, you're always trying to, increase the challenge or the, I don't know what you call it.
But you've also got to learn to mitigate the risk as well. And
right, yeah. I mean,
you've got to understand,
if you're doing that.
You've got to understand the limitations of your kit. And
right. How many times can you?
There's only a certain number of times. Yeah. And he took it too many.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen there's an Indian climber who goes by Spider-Man or Spider Monkey or something, and he went viral for quite a while, climbing up this side of the stone building, basically this sandstone building, and as he gets sort of halfway up, he can't reach the next hold, so he has to basically invert himself, and then loop himself back up. It's a I'll think the link out to put in the notes, but it's really impressive to watch. And then they did some documentaries about him and stuff like that. He basically like modelled himself on how monkeys climb, and kind of tried to emulate that way of kind of being light on your feet and almost the kind of the springiness of it. But phenomenal to watch. Again, just like free solo and just scaling the side of these, big sheer face buildings and rock faces and stuff. Pretty cool.
That's pretty. Yeah, things. Now, risk is part of your day job, I think, isn't it, Dave?
Well, we try not to be, but I do work for a safety consulting company part-time. So, so I help with the training materials, but we do all kinds of just, telling people how to mainly comply with regulations, but also actually stay safe. So done a bunch of different stuff, wind turbines. So climbed up to a top of 300-foot wind turbine. That was fun.
Nice.
And then you can get all the way to the top, and I just basically poked my head out of the top. The guys who work there, they're like walking around on the top of the thing. It's not flat, and
it's got an angle, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. So, but they do it every day, so it's just their job. So it's definitely not. I don't want to do that every day.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So.
I'm guessing they were wired in.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So there's like a railing, and they're have a harness, so they're clipped. But if you fall off the side, it's not really an easy way to get back up.
Yeah.
So
I think I'd be having a bit of rescue kit kind of on my harness every trip, I think.
Yep. Yeah, they have a built-in thing, and they can sometimes they can it's easier to they'll lower you down the side, so 300 feet over the side of the thing if you fall. So
there was a big problem. There was I think it was in America. There was in the early days of wind turbines. There was a fire in a nacelle with a couple of guys who were the wrong side of the fire to the hatch to get back down.
Right.
So they ended up not making it because there was no rescue kit. There was no kind of means of escape off the nacelle.
Could be
because the fire was inside. And I mean, that was it was horrific. There was a helicopter that was sort of flying around, but the helicopter couldn't get anywhere near because of the fire in the turbines blades.
Yep. Yeah, that's something they train for, and they do have a rescue that's specifically for that case. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different. Yeah, but now obviously they're always improving that kind of technology. So it's pretty interesting if you look into all the different solutions they have for any type of problem. There's a way to do it.
Oh God, I like stuff like that. I mean, my father, the last job he had, where before he was any work he was doing for himself, the sort of last employed work he had, he was a safety officer, security for a carpet company actually, and so there was constantly kind of safety catalogues around at home because he'd kind of bring them home to kind of sort of flick through them because he didn't have time in the day. And it'd be like, it's so many kind of interesting things to kind of look at and solutions. I guess I'm also a bit of a background in caving and climbing myself. It's
right
interesting to kind of think about those kind of solutions for escape from high places.
Yep. Yeah. Some of that stuff is the same. Basically the same equipment. That you'd use to descend. So.
Yeah, it's interesting actually because my in-laws run a health and safety training company, and my wife used to work for them as well, and she's been doing health and safety at her new place that she's at now. She's been doing health and safety stuff for them, but it's weird how much people forget that kind of stuff. That's so much of it is so much of it is common sense as well, but so much of it is just complacency of people then not realizing that there is safer ways of doing things. We
sure
do something the same way all the time and it's been fine, and then people in your position sort of go, oh look, this is what can happen. Oh, I never even thought of that. I didn't think that was a problem. It's never happened to anyone I know. So
right.
That must be a frustrating aspect of the job, I would imagine.
It keeps you busy because there's especially people who have been doing this job for 30 years, and they always do. That's what that's you hear that commonly. It's like we've always done it this way, but it doesn't mean that there's not a better way, and that can for all different types of for sure. But
do you find kind of watching maker videos sometimes sort of, can you turn your safety awareness hat off, or do you kind of
because I don't unless if you're an employee, then your employer can't ask you to do something to risk your life for money, because there's a relationship there that but if you can do whatever you want in your own shop. I mean, if someone asks me a question like about a respirator or something, then I'll give advice, but it's not there's lots of different ways to do things, and so a lot of the safety regulations are specifically you're talking about like you're working in a factory, or you're doing something so it's different than your shop, but certainly there's there's safer and less safe ways to do things. So but there's enough people commenting, so
well, this is true. This is true. The safety police on YouTube particularly are quite vociferous about kind of opening it up and going, you really shouldn't be doing that. Or
I mean, that can go two ways though, can't it? Sometimes you'd get the but I've always done that, or I've done this instead, which is way more unsafe.
Right?
The people that would go, you shouldn't be breathing in and out near that tool.
Yeah, exactly. There's that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because I think sometimes I see people kind of commenting about table saws and their use, and I kind of think back to when I was working in industry, and we had there were two table saws that we used to use regularly. One had a 18-inch blade, the other was I think a 12-inch blade. I had big cabinet saw types. Sliding tables on both, and it was. They were scary machines, but I think to some of the practices that I was doing on those, fingers within centimeters of the blade, cutting pieces that are far too small, really. But we needed certain size for certain samples. I think we needed pieces that were 4 inches wide, so we literally be kind of over it. You're kind of moving things with our hands. We didn't have. There were sliding tables. We didn't have push sticks. If we needed something smaller, we just kind of set the fence and used our hands to move it through.
Found someone with smaller hands.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was scary. We had crown guards on. I can't remember if they had riving knives. I think the one did and one didn't. But they both had.
Right.
Well, certainly one had a crown guard. I'm trying to think if the other one did now. I can't. Might not have done. But you see. I see sometimes videos online, and you kind of go, how you still have your fingers. And obviously there are times when people don't keep their fingers.
Sometimes they don't. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that tends to end up on
tools,
sort of Facebook.
Yeah. Tools, they come with a manual, and I got it's a Craftsman table saw from the 80s. Doesn't have a guard. It didn't come. I don't know where it went, and I haven't replaced it. But I did read. I got the manual and I read it because I don't know how to work a table saw, and it has useful information. You should read it. But it's about like understanding how the tool works, and that's and again, a small table saw and a cheap table saw is actually more dangerous because it binds up the blade so much more easily. A big one,
of course,
it's not going to stop.
Isn't
but
more flex and things.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, flexing the tabletop. It's
I
cast iron. It's not going to flex.
Right.
Some statistics for that, isn't there? For if you think of the kind of the way it would usually go, if you've got someone with a big, expensive, heavy, solid table saw, tend to be using, more stable, better hardwoods that are less likely to bind the blade up or things like that. Whereas you might have someone with a super cheap table saw who's then using super cheap, fast grown, really crap lumber that's going to be wanting to bind more and stuff like that. I wonder if there is that correlation between the, the sort of the price range of point of entry almost, or point of damage.
Yeah.
Or I suppose conversely, you might have more complacency with someone who's got the bigger setup and more years in doing it and have been doing it that way for 30 years, and maybe it cancelled out, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated.
Most things in life are, really.
Yeah, that's. Yep, that's what I always
as
say.
much as everyone on Facebook and YouTube wants to say everything's sort of nice and simple and black and white, there's an awful lot of grey.
No,
in fact, Eric in the chat has just made an interesting point. Eric runs part of running a makerspace, and says safety gets pretty interesting in the context of a non-profit makerspace where you have a hard time training people with volunteer hours, funding is lacking, and a lot exists in a legal grey area.
For sure, that's a big thing.
It's you haven't got that kind of employment. You talk like you mentioned earlier, that any kind of employer-employee relationship where you kind of go, I'm paying you, this is what you have to do.
It's enforceable, isn't it?
Yeah, if you don't do it, you're going to lose your job. Hopefully that's along the lines of, if you don't use the safety equipment or do this in a safe manner, you will lose your job. As opposed to if you don't do it in a really nasty, unsafe manner without the proper equipment, you'll lose your job.
Right.
Which we all know exists.
For sure. Yeah, my local makerspace, they I think you typically have to pay for the class to get signed off for the different equipment. And it's like, it's not expensive, and they have scholarships and stuff, so they have a fund for that. But it's like $20 you go in, you can learn how to use the wood shop or the metal shop. And so I think that's one, and again, I think a lot of that stuff is still volunteer run, and maybe it's just a thing of you have to get to a certain scale, where you have enough volunteer time to cover that.
So I suppose it's going to stop time wasters then as well. If there's a fee for learning to use that area, it's going to probably mean it's someone who's more likely to want to use it properly rather than
Yeah, and you have to have people do it.
Things.
If you can't, understand the rules or understand how to safely use it, you definitely have to have someone come in and
chaperone,
suggest that you take the class again, or maybe find a different place to work. But it's complicated for sure.
It is, and there's the danger, of course, that is the person doing the instruction isn't necessarily doing things in a safe way, because this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah,
right.
Because I remember, kind of clicking back on the climbing thing. I can remember I was, I think about 19 years old. I'd been at university. I was in the climbing club. I was a safe climber. I knew my stuff to sort of do things safely. I was climbing regularly, multiple times a week, and I think it was summer holidays. It might have been kind of one of the kind of term breaks. I'd gone home to Wales and I'd kind of offered to help out with a climbing day for a local scout group my dad was still involved with. And there were a couple of us that were both, I think there were about 3 of us that had come back kind of from university to help out, and there was the guy leading it was supposed to be the expert, and he kind of sort of set something up and did it in a quite dangerous way. And when we didn't have an accident, but we kind of got a bit close. There was a sling came undone, which could have, if that had happened when it was loaded, could have been nasty. And he started to have a go at us, these young guys, and saying, it was perfectly fine when I put it up there and whatever. And it was just like, whoa, no, you didn't have, if you tie your own slings, if you tie your own slings, you need to make sure that the ends are secure, because a tape knot in a sling, in a piece of webbing, will slip. It's not a secure knot if left unchecked. But it's fairly easy to just tape the ends together. If you tape the ends together, they won't slip. It's just a case of if the ends are left loose with repeated loading and unloading, a web sling tape knot will loosen. And that's why kind of if you buy a sling, they're normally stitched. You don't knot them, you stitch them because it's much stronger and it's all secure. Mm-hmm. And it was this case of he'd been climbing for years and was supposed to be the expert, and he'd set it all up, and because it wasn't quite right, he tried to blame us. And it's like, no, these aren't. I kind of sort of bit back because I wasn't going to be blamed for something that wasn't my fault. And so, these ends need to be secured, and they're not secured, and these are your slings, and you set it up. It's your fault. And it's like, it was fine when I set it up, and he had quite a huff about it because he wasn't used to kind of people kind of arguing back. But I think there can be a situation where if there are people who've been doing things in a certain way for a long time and have not had any serious accidents, that they can kind of take an attitude of, well, this is the way to do it. If you do it my way, you'll be fine, even though it's potentially not a safe way.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's the whole. It keeps the tigers away. It's that whole thing of if you've got that talisman there that keeps the tigers away, then the fact that tigers haven't appeared, then therefore it must work.
Yeah. So
it's entirely what the beard's for.
All right. Well, that probably does work. Yeah.
It keeps the gremlins away.
I got to work on mine. So. It's only level 1.
I remember there was discussion in one of the UK woodworking groups on Facebook a couple of years ago, and it was somebody saying when they'd been to college that basically the guy, the instructor who kind of time served, had been in the trade for decades, and he was missing a finger or two, and it was just like, hang on, you're trying to tell me how to do things safely, but you're missing a finger.
So he has experience.
Whoever it was like, it wasn't a case of I lost a finger, don't do what I did, because it was more a case of, oh well, if you don't lose a finger, you're not a proper whatever it was.
Right.
It's like a status to have. It was a status symbol of I'm time served, I have lost a finger, rather than
that's the badge of honor.
Yeah.
No. It's not great.
How stupid can you be? If you're missing a finger, and it was a result of something that you still continue to do, and you're teaching other people that this is okay to lose a finger, like, not an industry I want to be in. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I suppose that's where there's some people have that argument against things like saw stop, don't they? Well, I suppose in much the same way that people have the same argument against like seat belts and anti-lock brakes, of like the safety features remove that fear, so you become more complacent, so you're more likely to be less safety conscious because you think the thing's going to fix it for you. If you make a silly mistake, you're going to be okay, so you're more likely to make a silly mistake in that kind of sense. Does that make that? I'm not words properly, but
it's not, it's not a great argument. There's people who are, if you're complacent, you're going to be complacent with or without it. But I pay attention every time I turn on a table saw, because just
big, scary, loud.
You can imagine and you can just see what's happening. So, but and the same thing. I've used airbags, anti-lock brakes, seatbelts many times. More than once. So I appreciate
nice to have.
I appreciate them. Because with driving, it's simple because you are always aware because everybody else is out there with you. So if you're by yourself, then you might get complacent. But if there's other cars, you're always paying attention.
Especially if you've ever interacted with any other humans in the normal world, and realised that quite a large number of them are very unsafe generally to be around.
Yeah, exactly.
Put them behind 2 tons of vehicle, and
right.
Yeah,
100%.
engage first gear on car, disengage brain. That seems to be not an uncommon approach in sort of some of the driving
Sometimes.
locally to me. Talking of airbag, there's quite a few. How should we call them? Young mothers in Range Rovers locally who think that because the Range Rover's got half a dozen, if not more, airbags per side, that they don't need to wear their seatbelts as well, because they seem to kind of think, I'm in a Range Rover, it's a big tough vehicle, and I don't need to wear a seatbelt.
Whoever else is in the crash is going to come off worse anyway, because the car is, their car is bigger and stronger and heavier, and
got a 4.5 litre
true.
engine under the bonnet. And
I mean, I'll be honest, I used to think about that when I was in my my knackered old 1988 Golf. Everyone else's brakes are better than mine, so why bother use them? Everyone else will stop before I do.
Oh no.
I'm going to take that gap because everyone else will be fine.
Right. So, I'll have to remember that if I come to England. Watch out for Jamie.
No. I mean, a nice, fancier, safer car with actual working brakes and
actual brakes now. Yeah.
I've been in his car. His brakes do work, I think.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing I try to make sure they work. It's an important part.
Yeah, I've had. I used to have a car. Last but one car, the car before the last one I had a tendency for one of the brake calipers. It happened multiple times, even after kind of work. Brake caliper would seize on.
That's not great.
So there was once I was going around a roundabout. This is actually the first time it kind of realised there was an issue. I went around this roundabout, and I think there may have been a little bit of oil. It's near an industrial estate as well, so there may have been a bit of oil on the road. And I'm going around the roundabout. Luckily, there was no one else around. Then I ended up facing into the roundabout on the opposite side from where I started from.
Oh no!
So basically, because it was the driver's side front wheel, so I basically span the rest of the car around on that wheel. It's like, what happened there? Oh,
yeah, it's like
this is not good.
Unpredictable. Yeah.
Talking about the brake caliper sticking on there, that was a perfect example of my, whenever anyone said about me being a complete gadget freak and why the hell do you need a thermal imaging camera on your phone? There was a fantastic smell coming out the back of my car, and I couldn't work out where it was from. But being able to go around with the thermal camera and work out which was the incredibly hot brake disc, I could then go, that's the broken one.
There you go.
I mean, the smoke coming out of that wheel helped.
Yeah, the smoke, it was glowing, but
it was well over 100
sure.
degrees. Yeah, it was about 170 degrees, I think it hit. It was toasty.
Wow. That happened once on a group of kids out on an expedition, and we were coming down this quite steep hill. For anyone that knows it, off the side of Oakhampton on Dartmoor. And there was a car in front, and we're kind of going down this hill, and a kind of car just in front of us. We're thinking, crikey, that car's putting a bit of a stink out. And then halfway down the hill, the car turns off, and the stink doesn't go away. I'm like,
uh-oh.
So I say to the sort of the guy who's driving, I said, there was a pub at the bottom of the hill. I said, look, just pull into the pub car park. So I dive out the side of the minibus to see plumes of smoke coming out of the near side front wheel. I luckily on the seat next to me, I had a hydration bladder with probably still a couple of litres of water in it. So I kind of grabbed that, and I'm squeezing the hydration bladder and using the kind of nozzle as a kind of a make-do fire extinguisher. And because as soon as you start doing that, it's just like plumes of steam everywhere.
Steam,
condensate. And it's like, oh, poop. That was kind of that was the start of a nightmare, to be honest. It was not a good thing. He's got a bunch of kids in the car, in the minibus, we've got this minibus now that we can't use. We had another bunch of kids that were on the other side of the moor, waiting for camping, and it was like, right, let's get the there's a recovery sort of number. Let's ring that out and get them out. This was like Saturday night.
Oh no!
It's about 8:00 on a Saturday night. So we get the kind of pull it, and it's dark because I think it was March. So we kind of pull out the kind of pack and there's no number. Eventually we find a phone number. We phone that and that number doesn't work. So we end up kind of sort of trying to phone. Eventually we get something. It was just like complete nightmare of a kind of just like. It's a kind of a teacher. It was a school trip, so it's like it was a sort of teacher in charge. It's like, what else could possibly go wrong?
I don't know. As long as you don't lose any of the kids, it's all good.
Yeah,
this is true. Yeah,
you just need the same number of people as you.
Yeah, the same number. It doesn't even.
Well, a little tip here: if you're ever involved in kind of education or kind of youth. Apparently, parents like to get their own kid back most of the
same
time.
one.
Yeah, that they send out.
Do all parents like to that?
I'm not going to comment on that one.
Right.
I can imagine there's a few
Most
who would be quite happy to get someone else's kid back instead, or to at least not get
if they're better behaved. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't lose a kid. Yeah, I've had that happen. Had to get police out. That's not a good one either.
Wow.
Yeah. Save that one for another time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good story, that one.
Yes, I've told you that one. I think, Jamie, haven't you? You've heard that
Yeah.
one. That was a scary one as well.
That's an after show story.
Oh right, yeah.
But how long have you been around the maker community? Because I know you were active in the maker community before we kind of interacted, which is going to be a few years ago now.
Let's see.
Is this you made it into an introduction here, Andy?
No, none of that.
Well, almost.
Tour guys.
Nearly three-quarters of an hour in. It's kind of can't time my segues perfectly. I'm not Steve.
Right. So they just had the 5th anniversary of making it 100, and that was 2015. So I probably discovered everybody maybe 2013, 2014. I don't know exactly, but so I started
OG then. Yeah.
Well, I was watching YouTube videos. I wasn't really doing much else because I hadn't found any Facebook groups or any other thing. So until making it 100, I hadn't met anybody or really. So that kind of was a big turning point to meet all those people and then get on Instagram, because Instagram is so much easier to share your work. You don't have to make a video, just take a picture and eventually you can you can get a discussion around that. So that's the main so that definitely was a big change. I was doing Instagram.
So when did you dive onto Instagram?
So I was probably around 2015. I'd have to go look, but so probably like the beginning of that year.
Were you at the Making It 100 event then?
Yes. Yep, I did go to that because it was luckily it was really close to me. So it was in Boston. So I'm in New York, so it's about 3 hours, and I actually was doing work with someone that's was right around the corner from where the event was. So I was able to arrange a trip and go out there, do some work, and then spend the rest of the weekend at the event. So it was cool.
Because that was the one that was held at the Converse factory? Was it Converse place?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the factory or it's the corporate headquarters. So, but yeah, it was really.
Oh, that's crazy. That was 2015. I remember when they were organising that.
Yeah.
God. So I was just worrying things so far back.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty, and they've been talking about doing another one, but they haven't got around to it yet. But there's plenty of other events. So
I was going to say they're at 300.
It's hard to. Yeah, somewhere over it, I think. But So we'll see, maybe 500. So
Yeah, that would be good.
We're trying to catch them up.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that thing though. Unless they stop, we're not going to.
Right.
Just defeat this talk, Andy. We'll get there eventually.
Well, we could go daily.
Oh yeah.
I think people have enough trouble getting through the ones we put out so
We
far.
might have to keep him
Yeah.
to like 3 hours. if we're gonna do it daily.
We make no promises, Dave.
Isn't it? Isn't it one of the big podcasters does a daily one? Is it like Joe Rogan? Does he do daily? I don't listen to it.
Yeah,
'cause, yeah, he's just
There's
not
some
enough.
that do. I don't follow anything that's a daily podcast, so
No,
it's
that's
not
far too
my
much of a
area of
commitment for me.
expertise. Yeah, it's enough to keep up with all the weekly maker podcasts. So
Yeah, but
I do
two
listen
that I
to-
religiously do every week, and one that's every fortnight. And that's if I manage to catch any others, I manage to catch any others. But yeah,
I do. I've listened to a couple that are dailies, but they're 10 minutes at normal speed, so I normally get
Right.
through them. And they, one of them is Curiosity Daily, so it's just kind of sort of sciencey facts, and about half the show is them kind of telling you these facts and what's interesting about them, and the second half of the show is them sort of summarising what they just told you. So I
Right.
tend to kind of get to, unless I'm kind of walking the dog and it's raining and I don't want to get my phone out, I tend to kind of skip the second half and not really miss much.
yeah.
And there's another one. It's a guy that reads blog posts from other people with permission.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
So kind of this stuff, and he tends to have themes. So Monday is always something about minimalism, and again they're only they average 4 or 5 minutes when I'm at 1.7 times speed. So those are my only daily ones. So most of the
Okay.
rest are weekly, the occasional fortnightly, and occasional monthly. So apart from
How much-
making it, what? Go on, Jerry.
I was going to say, how long has it been since Thoughts from the Tinkerage released an episode?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah. All right.
We get that every week now.
That's your second.
Yeah.
That's the second or third time this week you've mentioned that. You're hinting
Yeah.
at something, are you? Yeah.
I'm missing it.
Right.
I'm missing it.
That's interesting. How many of those did you actually record in the Tinkerage though?
About 4 of them, I think.
Okay. So a couple.
Most of them were from the car.
Thoughts
Right,
from the
yeah.
car that's near the Tinkerage.
The Tinkermobile, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause I think that would. Yeah, you never know. Something might happen. It's the Christmas holiday soon, so we'll see.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That
Christmas
reminds
special.
us, Andy, we've got things to sort.
Oh,
Yes, we have. Yeah, and I haven't actually sorted out any guests for next year yet. Yet.
Ever the teacher.
still school.
Yeah.
Can't ever.
Can't
get away.
Yeah, my wife's a teacher. I've got 2 kids in school. We've got exams start tomorrow for one
Oh
of them.
goodness.
Yeah, they're kind of mock exam, or they call them now. They're called PPEs, pre-public exams. So in my day they were called mock exams. But
Right.
now, with the certainly with the coronavirus, the last few years, every opportunity to examine kids is used as an opportunity to collate evidence that can be used to establish a grade if you can't do real exams at the end of the year.
Right.
Makes
So
There's a bit more pressure, on the kids to sort of do well on them.
right, because typically it would be like this is the practice exam, but now it's might be. the
Yeah.
real. We're not sure.
Well, certainly. Kind of when I was teaching, many kind of sort of students would take the attitude of, or you get this after you kind of marked it and said, "Yeah, I didn't do any revision, sir, because I wanted to see what I actually knew," rather than kind of do some revision, you might know more. Just
Right,
a
yeah,
thought.
somehow it's gonna
yeah.
magically appear.
Like,
It's an indicator of how much revision you need to actually do for the main exam. You don't want to revise too much and learn too much if you only want that passing grade.
Right.
Do 10% revision instead of 50% revision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't interact. Yeah, you can't miss out on social life.
Right. Well, I can't comment on that type of activity. I didn't do a lot of that back in my day. So
yeah, we didn't have many mock exams in my day either. It was just like right at the end of the year. That was it. I don't. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, we didn't do anywhere near as many exams as they do now when I was in school.
There wasn't as much pressure on everything, was there? It was just you've gone through school. That's close enough. It's not.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, the way it is now, they're being, it's much more granular, isn't it, for finding out exactly, what or which bits of the exams you could answer. Sliding into long, lengthy topics.
I do remember I had one. This was like my Western civilization class in college, and the teacher said, "Okay, here's a practice exam," and they went through all the questions, and then the next week we had the exam as the exact same questions. I almost didn't need to read the questions. I could just be like, "Oh, A, B." Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I've heard of that sort of thing being a few times.
I think they were close to retirement. Maybe I'm not sure. He definitely had lost the passion of teaching at that point.
I've known things like that happen in this country. Happening in the school I taught at for a little while. I left that school because of things like that.
We had a maths teacher who gave us it was an A4 size piece of paper just with 60 questions on it, and it was all really, really simple, just half times a quarter or 2 times 5, just really, really simple stuff that everyone knew.
Right.
But it was not an exhaustive test, but we were given 60 questions and given 5 minutes, and he basically just said do as many as you can in that time frame. And then the next week we were given exactly the same paper again and the same time frame, and loads of them were like, "Sir, you've given us the same questions as last week." And yeah, see if you can get more of them this time. See if you can manage to do all 60 questions.
Yeah.
And so what's the point in doing that? So I've got to get to the point where I can give you this sheet or a sheet with them all rearranged, and you get 1 minute to do all 60 questions.
Whoa.
So that you can look at the question and know the answer and write the answer. We're like, no, that's not possible, so you can't do that. And then he did it in front of us, and we just went, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was when the kids started just remembering all the answers in order. He had to start then shuffling them around and changing the order.
Right, yeah.
Question.
Yep, same thing.
I had a student once in an exam, a proper public exam, who literally just went, I can't remember what she did now. I can't remember whether it was multiple choice and whether she just went down the A column. So she was finished in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Or whether she zigzagged and went A, B, C, D, C,
right.
B, A, A, B, C, D.
Attractive pattern.
She did one or the other. And she got a good grade. It wasn't like a top grade, but it was a passing grade.
Passing.
I was just like,
got to randomize better.
Yeah. And she's just like, you kind of expect if you just guess you should be able to get like 25%, but she got over 25% on a full mark.
That says more about the people setting the questions than it does about her answering.
Yeah.
It's like, because she's done it. It's just like, within less than a minute of the exam starting, she was sat upright, kind of just looking around, kind of just like, "You right? Yeah, have you
had enough? Yeah,
yeah, I'm done."
There is an old story of something similar that with very quick entry to an exam. And it's I don't know how true it actually is, whether it's completely apocryphal or not. It was a philosophy exam where the professor came in, placed a chair on top of the desk, says, using everything you've learned in the length of this course, tell me why this chair doesn't exist. And after a couple of minutes, one student just sort of walked up to the front, placed the paper down, and walked out. And they just sort of looked at the thing, and it just said, "What chair?" Oh, damn it! Hey.
Too clever. Yeah.
So making it is on your list of podcasts, and obviously Maker's Waffle and Thoughts on Tinkerage. Any other kind of making podcasts that you like listening to, Dave?
Mainly these days, I just listen to all the ones that in the Makers on Zoom having coffee. Everybody's got a podcast, so those keep me pretty busy.
There are quite a few. Yeah, there seems to be quite a few. Yes, yeah. So we got
podcasts on
for the benefit of the listeners who aren't members of Makers on Zoom having coffee. I think that's because we make, which is Vincent and Ethan. So Vincent from last week. We've got Making Our Way with Christy from Twisted Twine, Dean Duplantis, and Austin from High Caliber Crafts. Trying to think who the other podcasts are.
There's did you get the Clamp podcast?
They'll have a go now because I forgot.
Oh no!
Yeah. So Grant Alexander, who stepped in for us a few weeks ago, he's Clamp with Morley Kurt and Adam Mackey.
That's right.
And there was one that
Morley
stopped,
has another.
wasn't there? Morley's got
2 podcasts. Yeah. Into the Spotlight.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep. That's a good one.
Yes, I was on that, so it must be a good one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Episode 11, I think.
Typically,
directly
because it's come in with all the answers for us.
Yes. Yeah, because we make Clamp, Make Our Way, Makers Figuring It Out, which is on a hiatus, and Makers Waffle. Yeah, I don't have to jot these down, so I put them in the.
You probably don't need to put Makers Waffle in the chat.
No.
That someone has a good comment. He said we should recycle the Reclaimed Audio podcasts. Listen.
Well, I think Tim would very much appreciate that. I think Tim's way.
Got to reuse those.
Yeah, do we just overdub exactly what they've said, but just in our voices instead?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, who would you pick to be though, Jamie? Yeah, would you Mr. Lutz, Mr. Sway?
I think I'd probably have to be Bill. I think, wouldn't I? Because he's famous for being a beady fella and giving good hugs. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's interesting how the number of maker podcasts has gone up during kind of, I think, again, coronavirus. I mean, yes, there were a couple that stopped.
Right.
Yeah, Makers International stopped. Reclaimed Audio stopped. Both of which have been going for quite a few years. But then during the pandemic, during the lockdowns, there have been, I dare to say, dozens of maker podcasts that have started. And I couldn't name them all, but I know there's certainly, I think there's several that I listen to now. I'm playing catch up. One that I'm on, yeah. But I've been listening lately to one called Northern Makers, 3 Northern Makers, which is a guy from Yorkshire and 2 Swedes, one of whom I think was living in Switzerland but now has gone back to Sweden, I think. So I've been playing catch up on that, which has been quite a good podcast, kind of woodwork oriented. Nice kind of sort of set of banter amongst that. There's quite a few.
There's so many, and every type of making, if you want to have a blacksmith podcast, there's dozens. Yeah, I guess that's probably the other new one I'm listening to is 2/3 Focus, of course.
That's a damn good podcast.
Yep.
We were discussing earlier that there's kind of like the obviously, Fields of Tools being the one that a lot of us have come from, and how a lot of us know each other. They're kind of the offshoot of Fools starting podcasts and stuff. And there's that kind of like holy trinity of Makers Waffle, 2/3 Focused, and Fields of Tools just slinging crap at each other every week.
Oh, right. There's always you have to pay attention.
There's got to be a Rasmus
references
every week.
I was going to say let's get the
everybody
crap slinging right. It's mostly crap slinging at Rasmus, poor guy.
Yeah, every podcast.
I mean, he thoroughly deserves every bit of it because he's actually just a wonderful person. But
he seems so nice. Yeah,
he is. Yeah. But I mean, Steve calls me a dick almost every week on Fields of Tools, so
that's true.
We're just passing it on.
Steve calls everybody. That's what Steve.
Yeah, that's true. Fields of Tools cinematic universe.
The Fields of Tools. That's right. Yep. Yeah, so I guess I'm part of that now. So great.
And you've been to both of the maker camps at.
Yeah, the Catskill Mountain Maker Camp.
Catskill Mountain. I thought they sort of black something, but Catskill Mountain Makers Camp. So I mean that seems. I mean, certainly it from what I see, it's the kind of thing I think. Yeah, I'd love to go to something like that. I'd love to go to that one.
For sure. If you could,
if and when it would happen, but,
make it work.
Yeah,
it's definitely great.
I mean, how did you find those? I mean, second time a lot easier than the first time. How many people did you know the first time?
I'm trying to think. I hadn't met most of the people, but I had, I met a lot of people who I'd talked to on Instagram from Fools with Tools and a bunch of, other. So I met a lot of people that time. So I knew obviously a lot of the people who came back the second time, so I knew a lot more. But still, I still met so many new people. Just a lot. I met so many people over the last year online from Makers on Zoom having coffee and on the Clubhouse. There's a bunch of people who all gravitated around in the shop room in Clubhouse, and so a lot of those people showed up at Maker Camp. So that was a lot of fun to get to meet a lot of them in person. So
it did look like such an awesome time at Maker Camp, the most recent one. Well, I mean, they all do, but it just with how recent that one was. But
especially with the kind of sort of dinosaur fire.
Yeah,
at the end.
Yeah, that was something special.
It just looked like it was just big, massive, beaming smiles from everyone. It looked like far too much fun.
Yeah, it's fun. You just have to get a bunch of creative people in the field, and they'll figure something out. They'll have fun. That's all you need.
Yeah, here's some tools. Here's some materials.
Grass and a couple tools, and we'll figure it out. So.
Yeah, I suspect there's a little bit more to it than that. I think, having the
I don't know. Yeah.
Bit of organising.
The facility they've got there.
That's true, because they are experts at holding events, so everything that surrounds the event, is taken care of. And if you have just a bunch of volunteers doing that who don't have experience, it's going to be a lot more difficult, So I think Maker Central is basically as organized. They have an organization there that kind of figured that out, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a different type of event, though.
It's a different event, but still, it's
still wrangling cats.
Yeah, I mean the Maker Camp, you've got that element of everyone going is kind of going to. Yes, you've got people who've said, "Right, I'm gonna run a tent or help run a tent with a pile of anvils in." oh, I'm going to run a tent with some power carving. So you've got those kind of people who've volunteered to do things. But I think because then the punters that are coming along are all kind of makers. They're not quite, it's not just kind of sort of essentially members of the general public. They tend to be kind of connected together in making and the maker community. You've got obviously new people who turn up who maybe are just new to the maker community, but there is that element of it's turn up, have some beers, sit around a fire chatting, go and smash some hot metal on an anvil, go and do a bit of power carving, go and make something with leather, make some pine wood derby cars. Let's just kind of get real hands on.
Right.
And
I think that's.
Go on.
Yeah, the difference is that almost everybody who comes there makes something. Look at Maker Faire or something. There's going to be a lot of people who are just interested in the robots or just like seeing what's there. It's it's like a county fair with robots. Yeah. But yeah, Maker Camp is almost exclusively people who make something, and they have and they want to learn how to then they're going to learn how to sew or weld or blacksmith or do something new. But they usually had some sort of creative outlet already.
Of course. I think that's where Maker Central's perhaps sits in between almost, because that's a lot of the makers sharing skills as well as hanging out. But then there's a lot of people who are just there to see and experience as well. It's kind of similar to the Maker Faire.
You get those people who are turning up because they just want to see that famous YouTuber that is on the TV and is going to that they watch, and maybe are inspired by, but don't necessarily make. They're inspired by making, but they don't necessarily do making. I mean, I can think of there's some people who jump into my mind who I now consider friends, who Maker Central in 2019 was their entryway into making. They literally turned up, wanted to see some interesting things, saw some interesting things, and then basically spent a lot of money getting some tools and stuff so they could joining the maker community by walking away with a huge bunch of boxes, well, theoretical boxes, because what they have got into wasn't just something you walk away with, but they've kind of joined the maker community as a result of Maker Central, rather than being makers and then getting into the events. So I think there's that public. I think it's more open to the public, so you get that wider range of people, some of whom aren't makers. And literally people just turning up to kind of go. I regularly go to things at the NEC to see interesting things, and this would look like an interesting one to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Tom was just saying there about the Supernatural convention and the Vape convention, and then there was the Fitness Power Expo and things like that.
Sure.
So it was. That was the fun game when we. I can't remember if it was the first year or the second year of Maker Central, where they had the vaping conference there, and you'd step out of the convention into kind of the corridors, the foyer sort of out front, and people were playing the game of is that a vapor or a maker, because it was quite often just big white dudes with beards.
You're right there.
Trying to work out whether they were walking towards Maker Central or Vapor Central, sort of thing. Which one are they going to go in?
Yeah.
So you also had the fitness one as well, didn't it? So there were lots of
the Body Power Expo.
Very muscly.
Those you could tell who they were.
Guys, there was no mistaking. Yeah, we got people walking around with kind of legs the size of most people's sort of
torso.
Waists. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
It's just like.
That was the fun battle in the hotels. and they're going for the breakfast in the morning, and sort of like trying to fight your way through to try and get the hotel breakfast. And it's all self-service, so the guys just like loading up just stacks of breakfast.
Yeah, the bodybuilders, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
15 eggs, 17 slices of bacon.
Yeah. You have to have the yogurt.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's awesome.
Find all the stuff they can't have.
Yep.
What was the food situation at Maker Camp? Because that's something because there's bits.
Yeah.
From what I've seen at Maker Camp, I've seen a lot of the making stuff. You see the kind of people going around, sort of, there's the occasional people that going around walking around the tents, and kind of you're seeing people that you know, and you're seeing people that you know of, and
Right.
Obviously there's a lot of coverage this year of Wesley's and Michael and the other guys, giant burning
The
dinosaur. But
Sure.
we don't get really to see or hear about kind of the other stuff, because I know some people camp. There's some cabins. Some people stay in hotels off. Yeah, there's what's the food situation?
So, they have it's a resort of a type. So they have they have a dining room. So they have breakfast and dinner. If you buy that, the pass that includes the food, and then they just have a bar and a snack bar that's outside that they have for lunch. And there's actual in the in the main building there's actually just a regular bar that you have live music and stuff there. So
nice.
It's it's improvisational, so a good majority of people just eat in the dining room, for dinner, and that's great because you can go and find a bunch of new people, and you find a table and sit down and meet a bunch of people that way over your meal. And so, a lot of people, some people go to, there's places around that people can go to get, dinner or breakfast or whatever. So, but it's,
I guess I think it's more common in America for people to go out for breakfast than it is sort of in the UK. I mean, there are places you can breakfast,
right?
But it's not so common, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just a different sort of thing, isn't it? There's quite a few cafes doing breakfast and stuff. It's reasonably packed, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's probably one of those things that probably changes with location. Yeah.
I mean, pretty much any place that has coffee will have a, donuts or egg sandwich or something.
Yeah, something you can eat with it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I guess that's true. In this country as well, I suppose. Yeah, the coffee, the growth of the coffee shop over the last couple of decades.
Right.
I can see a change in the way people eat and kind of rush off to work and literally grab a coffee from Costa or Starbucks and
it's interesting actually because Dave Gorman is a comedian over here. He was lamenting of the prevalence of the coffee industry in the UK has ruined the tea industry. Because historically what you'd have had is a way of boiling water so you could make tea, and then our coffee was always absolutely awful, powdered instant rubbish that would. You could go and get a really good cup of tea somewhere, but not a really good coffee. And then over time, they've switched to having coffee machines. So now you can get a really good cup of coffee, but if you try and get a cup of tea, you're just basically given a tea bag and a mug of nearly boiling water. You have to then. And he was sort of lamenting.
You figure it out yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like by all these people who like coffee, they've got what they want, but all the people who used to always enjoy tea now can't get a good cup of tea anywhere.
Yeah, they lost the craft of making tea. That's interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
mind you, having had kind of British Rail tea in the long distance past, the loss of the kind of giant steel teapot with kind of 500 tea bags rammed into it.
Yeah.
That you could literally almost stand your spoon up in the tea because it was so stewed. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, if the tea trolley has a nozzle like a bar tap, then
yeah, that's one thing we talked about, is having someone come in and make some fancy coffee for next maker camp.
that'd be cool. Get a full barista setup.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, have someone there must be a coffee truck or something that can come to just make things a little more interesting. But there was coffee. We all survived.
I was going to say, can people survive without coffee? I think most people can't.
Yeah. No. No, not after staying up till 3 or 4. Chatting with your friends. So.
But that depends then what time you start again in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people start, 9 o'clock or so. So some people don't. But yeah, it's any of those kind of things. You don't plan on getting too much sleep.
Yeah, you catch up after the fact.
Right.
Yeah. Have a couple of days in bed to recover.
Yep.
Refill that sleep debt.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a festival that we go to every year, me and the family, and it's quite common for the music to be still blasting out sort of 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then because we're camping in the family areas, then you've got the families up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's that kind of battle of you drift off at whatever time you fall asleep, and then you wake up a few times throughout the night and you can still hear music, and then you drift off again, and then you wake up and you can hear babies crying. So pass out again, and then you wake up and you can hear music again, and then there's people making breakfast. So what's going on here?
It's totally
busy campsite. So not
not
conducive to long lie-ins, are they?
Oh no. God, no.
Nope.
Very good for naps in the afternoon, though.
There you go.
Yeah, catch up when you can.
Sure.
I used to find that on camping trips with kind of the Duke of Edinburgh Award type things. For the benefit of people not in the UK, Duke of Edinburgh Award was a scheme established in the 50s or 60s, I can't remember, by the late Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, as a means of giving young people primarily in sort of inner cities, but it's spread across the country, opportunities to develop skills in things like doing service, so helping, say, with a charity, learning skills, doing sports, and an expedition. So actually sort of getting outdoors, and kind of there's 3 levels: bronze, silver, gold. And for the expedition, you kind of go from 1 night to 2 nights to 3 nights, and with an increasing distance. So you kind of start with, I think it's 16 miles up for the bronze, up to 50 miles minimum for the gold.
Wow.
So kind of used to do I was actively involved in that for many years, and you kind of it'd be quite interesting, particularly on the multiple night ones, if you were kind of sort of doing the training, because when they're doing their actuals, they're supposed to kind of be essentially self-sufficient. So particularly with gold, you kind of, that's the one where you kind of go, right, we'll stay in a youth hostel in a nice comfy beds, and you'll be camping, and we'll just check that you've got to the campsite okay and there's no problems, and we leave you overnight to deal with things. But it was kind of interesting, kind of how on the first night people would kind of be up and about till quite late. So you'd kind of have to be kind of threatening to pull their guys out of their tents to shut them up, particularly if it's a public campsite, but it's the risk of keeping other people awake. And then by kind of the second night, they'd be so exhausted from having carried all their stuff, particularly if it had been wet. At 8 o'clock, and there'd be like silence because they're all asleep.
Right.
But I think yeah, it's. I think the idea of staying up late. I mean, make it central. I went to bed quite early compared to most. I think there were people still going at 5 in the morning one year. People were talking about.
Goodness.
Yeah.
And because it was hotel bar, basically would keep serving as long as there were punters willing to pay.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
There were some very, very hungover people the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, the camp, of course.
It's that time of the podcast where we reference Dr. Multi. That was...
Oh.
Sorry, what were you going to say then, Dave?
I was going to say, at the camp, you can, provide your own beverages as well. So it never has to close,
Yeah.
And the James usually brings his own, doesn't he? He brings a...
He does, yeah.
Historically,
well, the 2 times we've had it so far, he's brought some of his brew.
Yeah,
so yeah. You can always tell who's spent the night, kind of in and around close proximity to James. some very, very heavy hangovers.
Certainly, if it was extended time, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite funny in a way because, of course, the hotel bar would be very unhappy if he were to turn up with a supply of his own beer.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And obviously you couldn't do that in an open bar, so it would potentially have to, if you were going to do something like that, potentially you would have to end up in a room, and then of course there'd be kind of whispers going around of need to go to room 232 and. Yeah, knock on the door 7 times.
As long as you had the passcode.
Yeah, the passcode. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
Bit like a sort of a
speakeasy,
prohibition speakeasy. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And because the problem with some of that as well, that sort of thing I can imagine would possibly attract people who would then turn up also with additional bottles of liquor. So, as well as having kind of pints of whatever might have been brewed, there would be people passing around kind of, bottles of single malt or brandy, or tequila, or other things.
Whatever.
Because,
you want to contribute, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Get back. Just... Right.
Well, with Make It Central, is that something that you're going to venture over this way to come and give it a try?
I definitely want to do that. I'm not sure how that's going to work yet, but I would love to do that because there's a lot of people that I need to meet that and it's not fair to make everybody fly over to meet me. So have to.
I mean, it's much easier for you doing it that way, of course.
Right. Yeah. So,
from our point of view, yes.
Yeah, because I haven't met you guys. I haven't met Al yet from Fools with Tools, so that would definitely be a highlight. So,
have you met Steve?
Yep. Yeah, Steve was at the first Maker Camp because he was.
Of course, yes.
At like one of the classes.
Yes, he was. Yeah,
Jimmy's. So he made it, and.
Steve has done a couple of the classes, I think. Whereas Al did go for one.
He did, and I didn't get to go to the class. So.
Yeah.
But if he ever comes back for one, I will try to make that happen. So, because definitely someone you need to meet.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I know we as much as we slate Fools with Tools, they are pretty alright dudes.
Yeah.
Did you get involved in the treasure trade this year?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I did.
You should know this, Andy.
Yeah. Then you follow the
segue.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. He totally remembered. I got an amazing.
I've got a list on the computer. I could look it up, but
right. That's boring.
That would be a very poor segue.
We have to. We have to. It's not a segue unless you blunder through it and point it out for what it is.
Have to make it up.
Them's the rules. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. That was a lot of fun. It was very challenging. I made a bunch of mistakes on making my gift for the person I had, but made it work, and I actually got it shipped out at the last second on the deadline, so that was good. And
that makes 2/3 of us in this room then.
Yeah.
I'm saying nothing. Yeah, I'll keep quiet at the point.
Yeah, if you have connections, you can. I hear you can get a pass.
Or access to the spreadsheet.
When you intimately know the person who's negotiating the extensions, it does make life easier. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But
it'll be there before Christmas.
That's great.
Christmas.
Yeah, it was. I think. Yeah, the deadline got pushed up quite a bit this year, just to give people more time to let the postal service, do their thing. So
yeah, definitely.
But
did you try something new? Because that seems to be something that a lot of people do. They use the treasure trade as an excuse to try new techniques or make it something they've not made before, or use different materials or things like that.
Sort of, not quite. It was pretty tricky. So, but I combined a bunch of different things to make it. So I did a linoleum print, and then I combined that with like a watercolor, and then I built the frame and everything for it. So I kind of combined a whole bunch of different things together to into the.
Fantastic. We found like in chatting to people over 4 years it's been going now. Treasure trade.
Yeah.
3.
I think this is the 4th.
Oh, it's 3 or 4.
Yeah.
No, it's right. It's the 4th. This is the 4th year.
Yeah, this is the 4th. Yeah,
Goodness.
and it seems to have been. I mean, obviously, there's a reason why it's gone on this long. There's always this hugely positive response from people.
Right.
But so many people have been like, "Oh yeah, I tried making this thing I've never made before," or "I tried." It's a good excuse to try this new material, or try this new tool, or try this technique.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
It's like you say, like combining a load of stuff as well is.
Yep.
So I think I cut you off. Then you were about to say something about last year.
Oh yeah, last year I did try something sort of new. Yeah, because I made the leather book, and that was that took forever. It was a great learning experience, and I think that's why I was more hesitant to try a totally new thing, just because I didn't have quite as much time to get it done, and I didn't want to get totally in the weeds. But, it's still fun. And the treasure trade is so great because it's more about seeing the person open up the gift that you sent them than too much about and obviously every the gifts you get are great, but it's so many people are like I don't even care if it shows up as long as I can send something to someone and see their surprise.
Yeah, I think every year so far I've forgot that I was going to be getting a gift as well. Right. So I've been making the gift, and I've been so excited for the other person to get their gift, and then all of a sudden another parcel arrives for me. And what? Oh yeah, I'm getting something as well, aren't I?
Yeah, that did happen. Yeah.
I think it's nice to. I mean, I've in my desk area that's behind me. For those who are watching on the video, I've got just up there is one of the presents I've received in the past. I've got another one that's there where I keep my sunglasses on. So I've kind of got these, and the ones from last year is sitting on a little shelf sort of behind my head, so not in sight. So every single day I've got that kind of, if I'm looking at the clock on the wall, which is the kind of the Marvel shield up there, or it just constantly, there's things going, somebody made that. And they made that for me
specifically for you.
It's a nice feeling to kind of having got that, but it's the fact that it is handmade. It's not something that's I've got like the beer glass that I drink from. Yeah, that was a Secret Santa, or it was a Christmas present type thing. And yeah, I like this glass. I use this glass every day. I like using this glass, and it's kind of a reminder of the guy I used to work with who kind of got that. It's nice, but it's just a glass. And I know that I could walk into a supermarket, and buy a glass pint combination box, probably without too much difficulty. But I can't go and buy another one of those. I can't go and buy another one of those. Yes, somebody else could make it, or it could be remade, but it wouldn't be the same thing. Whereas if I kind of go and get another Doombar glass, assuming they still make them, of course, it's another Doombar glass. It's going to be identical.
It's the last one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
And it's nice to have that. Not you can look at every day. You've got something that you can look at and go, that was made by somebody thinking about kind of me and the things that I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually sort of thinking about one of the things I've enjoyed. And yes, I am late. It should go out in the next. I was hoping to do a bit more work on mine today, but I didn't get that time. So hopefully tomorrow and day after. So I'm hoping sort of Tuesday or Wednesday mine will go out. So I'm not going to say who it is, but apologies. Yeah.
If you haven't received the gift yet, chances are.
I mean, it's. I'll give you a clue.
Down.
As well as the thing I've made, there might be something to eat coming with the one that I've made, which might again be something that I've made. So, hint for somebody. And it's actually been. It in a way it's quite a challenge to actually sort of think about a person. You've got a limited amount of information about things that they like, maybe films or books or TV programs or making types of things that they're interested in. Or I mean, year before last, I had Carolyn Hintz Berlin Prop Shop. All I had was black.
Shop Berlin.
Black.
Sorry, And I kind of that was the kind of the thing. Is like, what do I make for this amazing artist?
Yeah, that's always.
And I've got this clue. I've got this clue black. He's spending like weeks thinking, right, what can I do? What can I do? Black. What can I do? I've just got black. It's like, but it's kind of nice to. I don't want to say too much about for the one this year. Yeah, there was a number of things were mentioned, and one of them was like, yep. Got no problem with that. I know that's something that I like as well, so I can get some thought behind that one. And there was another thing. It was like, I've never heard of that at all. And there was I had about, for the list of interests and things, I think there were sort of 6 or 7 things listed. And like the first one, I knew that well. The second one, not a clue, never heard of it. Third one, yep, I know something about that one. The fourth one was fine. And then there was another couple that was like, nope, don't know anything about those. And so you kind of got to spend time researching and kind of going, right, what is there something I can do with this? Is there something that stands out in these particular things of interest? These items, these elements of pop culture. Is there something that can be made or hinted towards or whatever that kind of fits in for that person? Also, I just kind of just make something with their name on the front.
Right. Yep. You always can go back to that.
Well,
like, okay, this is my specialty. Yeah.
That's the good question, isn't it? Because I mean, not only is my fool has received their gift, but they've been in the chat as well. And I didn't pick out any of the pop culture things that they're interested in or any of that. I sort of took a look at. I mean, it's someone I know anyway, so I took a look at.
It helps when that
work.
is the case, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and things that mean a lot to us both mutually as well, and did some leatherwork carving because leatherwork is something that they're also interested in. So I was like, well, it's a good opportunity to kind of. It's an ode to their work as well. Some of their artwork and things as well, but. it's whether or not that was the right approach. Maybe something related to their interest might have been better, or I suppose it's always open to interpretation, I suppose. And with Caro just putting black down, I suppose that gives you all the scope. I know when I've filled the form out as well, I've put all sorts of things in for sort of whatever sprung to mind, but whether that's of more use or more of a hindrance.
Yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes I think sometimes if there's kind of direction, it can maybe, depending on what it is, it can kind of go, well, that lends itself very easily to that. It might give an easy option out. The kind of the broad, kind of going, right, we'll just have black, makes me kind of sort of something, gives me all the scope. But I think the best probably analogy I can use is, like for me, if a car park, if it's empty or mostly empty, getting a space is the most difficult thing for me. I will end up over the line. There's too much choice. Like, do I go there and then I'll end up over a line?
Right, yeah.
Whereas if there's there's 10 gaps and they're all spread around, I'll just go, well, the convenient gap, that one's next to a walkway, so I'll go for that one. Or that one's kind of a bit closer to where I want to go, I'll go there. Or you kind of, it's easier to make those choices when there's kind of maybe less freedom.
Right.
But when there's, like for me, when there's a car park, it's kind of, if you give me a completely empty car park, I'm likely to end up messing up parking the first time because there's just too much choice.
Right.
Or maybe I'm just a rubbish driver, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
If you're not parked across 3 spaces, are you really doing it right?
Yeah, that's a style.
I normally go for 2 maximum. Yeah, car's not that big.
Right. Can't justify 3.
So what's your kind of making form of choice, Dave? Or choices?
I don't. Yeah. So it depends on what day it is. So I've been doing. I do printmaking because that was basically when I went to college. We did printmaking. That was like my favorite class. And then I didn't do it for 20 years. And then I was like, I can just go to the store and buy this stuff. I can do that again. And there's just so many interesting printmaking artists that you can, so that gives me a lot of inspiration. And then I try to, so that's a big thing, is just trying to do all different forms of that. And I guess it was kind of partially inspired by Jimmy DiResta's printing press, although, I'm not using that type of press or doing that type of printing, letterpress printing. But it kind of reminded me that that's something that I wanted to do. So that's it. But I just do whatever, mostly like weird sculptures. That could be anything. Usually inspired by some sort of joke that only one person will understand. So.
Talking of jokes, you're also the purveyor of joke cutlery, I believe.
Right. Yep. And that was specifically a joke because I ended up making, I forget, 2 or 3 different things that happened to be, sculptures related to sharp objects, but totally useless. So. And then
I love that kind of anything totally useless.
Right. Yep. So then I thought that was a funny phrase, joke cutlery. So I made an Instagram for that. And then every once in a while, I'll find something that fits perfectly in that that topic. There's actually quite a few things. A lot of people make either like gigantic spoons or really tiny ones. Or something's made out of wood and should be metal, or some kind of crazy epoxy sculpture.
Flexible chopsticks.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that one. That's a good one. But so yeah, that's because I don't have a lot of time to, I'm not working on actual, art. It's just a hobby. So usually if I have just an idea that's I think is, will be really funny or just fun to make, then that's how I decide what to make.
So would you call yourself maybe more of an artist than a maker? Or is maker kind of a term that you've kind of appreciated and grown into?
It's both, really. Because it's I also will try to fix anything or build something to solve a problem. So all stuff around my house, just being able to have tools and figure things out. So that's why maker kind of covers that. But I do some things that are more artistic or illustration type. So it depends on the day of the week. What I decide to call myself. But
I think that's that idea of being able to kind of go, yeah, today I feel like doing this, and the next day going, yeah, I don't feel like doing screen print today. I'm gonna make a handle for a knife.
Right.
It's nice to be able to plug into those sort of different skill sets. And I like to believe that having the different skill sets can, I wouldn't necessarily make you better in other ones, but can maybe lend itself to maybe an improved ability to pick up other skills. I think the more varied type of making that one does, I think it tends to maybe lead to more creativity in different areas. But that's just an idea
for sure.
It's kind of bouncing around.
I like that because a lot of the stuff that I learned, and I didn't really learn it properly. I learned it, whatever, was just like fixing things and solving problems. Your car doesn't work, so you have to figure out what's wrong with it, and you don't have the right tools, so use whatever tools you have. And every time you learn how something works or how to take it apart, maybe put it back together, then it just builds. So you build up this library of different techniques and skills, and then if you're trying something new, you can relate it to something that you already know, or something you saw in a YouTube video at this point, because probably that's a lot of things are actually things you've seen but you haven't tried yet. So
yeah, it's that overlap of skills and that transfer of knowledge that I think makers are particularly good at.
Right. Yeah, like people who call themselves makers usually are good at making connections and trying something new without knowing how it works. It's funny. Grant said that in I don't know if it's I think it was on his podcast. He was talking about how he figures out things with computers, and he says I just press all the buttons until one of them works. And I've been saying that for I don't know forever, 25 years. Everybody's like, how do you know how to do that? I'm like, I don't. I just tried everything. It's like, it's a computer. You can't really break it. If you press all the buttons, there's an undo. You can, you just save a backup copy of your document, and then if it doesn't work, you can go back to the old one. So same thing. Just willing to just try things, and learn.
Fix it till it breaks, and then fix it. Back to working again.
There you go.
I always found that I used to have to use Excel a lot. I've used spreadsheets. I mean, the first spreadsheet I used was Lotus 123 version 1.
Oh no,
it's not as old as VisiCalc, but
VisiCalc is the oldest.
Horrible.
Going back a bit, and I kind of always I've taken the viewpoint with Excel, because I mean generally most people nowadays use Excel, that if there was something I wanted to do, the people who write this type of software are blooming clever people. They're really clever people generally. They may kind of not always get things right. You kind of look at some of the user interfaces over the years, and you kind of think, why? But generally, they're clever people, and they are producing a piece of software for use by a varying range of people, from relatively new novices, young people perhaps, through to people who are, again, exceedingly clever and want to do very complex things. Now, I kind of, my use of Excel was always sort of somewhere in the middle-ish. I wanted to do useful things with it, probably a bit more than just basic, but not really advanced. Intermediate Excel user, I would describe myself, good intermediate Excel user. So I always figured that whatever I wanted to do, there was a way to do it.
Right.
That they already had built in. There'd be a formula, or there would be a mechanism by which the thing that I wanted to do could be done. And there was always it. It might take, sometimes it took a little bit of finding, but there was always a solution already built in. And it was just a case of, like you say, just, in the case of Excel, you try different formulae, you do things, you work on a sample bit of data. If it works, you apply it to your whole data set. And it's a strategy, again, like you say, with the computer. I've always kind of gone, let's just, unless you get it, if you get format hard drive coming up and you're stupid enough to click yes, and you haven't got a backup copy,
right?
Well, that's your own fault. But generally,
that's how I got into data recovery.
There you go. Now you're an expert.
3 partitions on a hard drive. One of them had all my data, and then I'd done F-disk, deleted the first 2 partitions, and then forgot to do a reboot. So created the 2 replacement partitions in place of the ones that I just deleted. Should have rebooted, so it put the orders back in. I didn't, so that did format, and basically reformatted my data partition. And went, no. So then spent a few weeks learning to be a data recovery person.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of things making mistakes, for sure.
Yeah, it's a really good incentive to learn.
Become an expert, yeah.
Yeah.
How to not make that mistake again. That's it.
There's nothing wrong with making mistakes generally.
No.
I mean, there are times when making a mistake is, if we could, we're almost going back full circle to talk about table saws. If you make a mistake on a table saw, it could be life changing.
Sure.
And obviously that's not a good thing. But generally, making mistakes is not life changing the majority of the time, particularly with things like computers. Unless, of course, you're messing around with a computer attached to a electrical transfer network or a nuclear power station. It's probably not the place to be learning those sort of skills. But if you make mistakes, you learn. And I think there's also that aspect of try and learn from other people's mistakes. So don't necessarily the person who's kind of put their hand across the open blades of a planer, a bench planer, because they've taken a guard off, and you think I'll leave that movable guard. I'll leave that on, if I'm using one, because I don't want to learn that mistake the hard way.
Well, it's interesting actually, because when you think about like where I first saw, and I think a lot of us probably first saw, the kind of the maker in a workshop would probably be Norm Abrams, or Yankee Workshop, or things like that. And they would often have, a message would come up on the screen, or Norm would say, we've taken the guard off for filming purposes. And there would be that explanation of we've made this saw less safe so you can see what's going on.
Right.
But then that you don't often see that on YouTube. I know a friend of mine who has lost a finger to a table saw accident. He now is a lot more safety conscious. But I did some before I had my table saw up and running. I did a lot of made a lot of French plates on his table saw, and before I went near it, there was a lot of kind of explanation of what was going on and how he'd set the saw up, and it was that kind of that initial, like, I've made stupid mistakes. Don't you make the same stupid mistakes. This is what you're going to do. This is why you're going to do this. This is why you're going to stand this way so this doesn't happen. And it was that was a case of like, I did a stupid. Don't you do a stupid as well? But I mean, like say, we come full circle with that, because you don't often see the same thing on YouTube of like, I've taken the guard off so you can see better. Quite often it's just, don't bother with the guard.
Right. Yeah. Take that off.
Yeah, take the riving knife out, because I was
optional,
doing one cut at some point that needed the riving knife out of the way, and I couldn't be bothered to put it back in.
I have to admit, there's the crown guard on my table saw, which I'll admit I haven't actually used my table saw since January 2017. I think it's the last time I used my table saw. But I don't keep the crown guard on it because it's actually slotted underneath another bench, and it wouldn't fit if I had the crown guard on it. I'd have to take the fence off. The saw blade has to go down, and I have to admit I don't always put the crown guard back on when I do use it.
Get him, Dave.
Yeah,
that way.
But it's. I think this. I guess I'm almost starting. I'm going to almost like sort of defend the kind of but that's all the way I've always done it. Yeah, because I think back to some of the saws that I was using back in the days. Yeah, it was like I think it's difficult with sometimes when we kind of go. I know I've done this when I was teaching, where you kind of go, look, I'm going to do this, but you students must not do this. Yeah, you must
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because there's that element of, well, I'm the adult and I'm taking a calculated risk based on my skills and knowledge, but it is a more calculated risk. I am doing something that is riskier than I am going to allow you to do as a student.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's right. Certainly in some times it is definitely a wrong thing to do. Particularly, I suspect that there are more the people who do put things on YouTube. I suspect that some people who put things on YouTube and who, when they film things, show good, safe working practices. Some of those people will, when not being filmed, will do things that are perhaps riskier, less safe, because it's quicker. It's the way I've always done it. I'm going to do it this way because I'm not being filmed right now, and I don't need to show the highest standards of safety, because I think there are people who kind of go, I will always, when I'm videoing things, do it with the best range of safety procedures in place, so that other people will learn the safe way from me, or perhaps not learn a dangerous way.
Yeah, that's more important.
But yeah, again, is it right? I mean, yeah, how many of us have cut a piece of MDF or a piece of particle board without putting a respirator on, just because it was a quick cut? I just need a small bit of scrap.
Yeah, only doing one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, my sinuses won't let me do that now. No,
yeah,
neither will my wife. But
good.
Yeah, it is. But I guess, it's when you don't, of course, that eventually things do catch up with you. It's, I've got a tough spine because I did repeated heavy lifting. It wasn't one instance. There are plenty of examples of somebody being hurt because of one thing going wrong, and we often kind of emphasize against that, but we don't necessarily talk about, well, you're fine doing it the once, and you're fine doing it the second time, you're fine doing it the third time, but once you make that 50, 100, 300 times, that risk is no longer mitigated.
I was talking with my dad about exactly this thing over the weekend, because he's in a very similar boat. He back problems from when he was a younger man doing, lifting big heavy bits of equipment and things like that, and being a big strong guy, he was, how can you just shift that for us? And he would just go and shift that, and it wasn't as much of an awareness about things like manual handling or how to lift safely, or whether or not it was even safe to lift it.
Right.
So a lot of, I suppose it's just a case of time and knowledge and research and training and disseminating that information out, normalizing actually looking after yourself slightly and that kind of thing.
And I think we need to do more of that. Actually, kind of normalizing it, making things. This is kind of the role of education, isn't it? The role of education is part of the role of education. That it's always lots of grey areas. We can learn things by making mistakes. We can learn things ourselves, and plenty of us do that, and plenty of people will continue to do that. That'll always be the case. But you can make more progress by a program of education, whether that's school or whether that's kind of active learning, whether that's taking a course, and or whether it's reading the manual. Not just Dave, Laura's video this afternoon, her live hangout, sort of set up the Tormek. I have to admit, I tend not to hang around too much for the long ones. Normally on a Sunday I'll be kind of doing a bit of ironing, and I'll kind of catch up with a few videos, and I'll try and aim the ironing for kind of when Laura releases a video.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So with a hangout, because they often last a lot longer, it's kind of like, well, there's other things to get on with. Can't necessarily stand and do. I don't want to do an hour's worth of ironing for starters.
Right.
But there's that kind of this afternoon she was setting up a Tormek sharpening system, and it's like, oh, I'll just try and dive in without reading the manual, and then it was like, oh, should I read the manual? And the chat went live with kind of a lot of people going, no, don't read the manual. Pros don't use the manuals. It's just like I was reading that, and I was just like, I actually switched off. I went back on a little bit later, but
a lot more people actually said read the manual.
It started.
I think some of them.
It started out initially with like don't, but I think then.
I think some of the people who were saying don't read it were probably assuming she didn't want to read it, and I think maybe it's kind of funny to say don't read the manual. It's a little bit of that too, but that's a complicated piece of equipment, and there's more ways to do it wrong than to do it right. The manual was really long, and so
it was really about an inch thick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that was German language one as well. It wasn't like often
didn't have all
a manual with
in it.
6, 12, 15. I think I've got.
German words aren't really long, so that's not surprising. It was a thick manual.
No, it did have some pictures in it, and I think the pictures were helpful. But it's because it's it had instructions on how to sharpen every different piece of every tool. So there was it's very specific. There's a different attachment and different angles and all this stuff for everything. So it was you had and she did go in the manual and read it.
Yeah, when I dipped back in, she was sort of looking at the manual. I was like, oh, thank goodness for that, because it's like...
Yep. But I think some people in the chat also had some experience with that piece of equipment, so they were able to kind of offer some advice. So that's actually good too.
That's a good thing, yeah.
If you have someone next to you or online who's done it before, they can kind of give you some, point you in the right direction. So
yeah, I think learning from other people, again, it's that kind of education, isn't it? It's you learn by yourself or learn with the input of other people, whether that's direct one-to-one, which is often ideal, whether that's group session like a class, or whether that's by video or things that people have written. But it's I mean, it's a nice piece of kit. I'm not sure whether I prefer the idea of a rotary whetstone or something like a Pro Edge with kind of moving belt.
Well, as it happens, there is a video that I watched the other day that I completely forgot that I'd watched, but is a perfect thing as an attention grabber. But Project Farm, who I've shouted out already,
yes,
and Project Farm were testing different sharpening,
the knife sharpening
systems,
right? Yeah,
and for that exact thing. So I ended up with some sharpening stones in my Amazon basket.
Oh yeah,
I put them on my wish list. On my wish list, that was it.
Yeah, there's 100 different ways to sharpen a knife that are effective. So that's almost a personal preference thing. It's like when you get into weird stuff, like the Tormek is really cool. I've seen people using it with the attachments for the blade turning tools.
Yeah,
and those you can get all the different profiles of the tool.
Get the correct profile every time.
Yeah, it can get it perfect. It only takes I've seen Pat Lap use it, and he's just he's turning, and then he stops for a minute, 30 seconds on the machine to sharpen it, and then back on to work. Yeah. So if but I think it does take a lot to learn how to use it really effectively. So
it's something I need to get a system. I mean, I've got some old, and I've got an oil stone that was my grandfather's.
Sure.
Which is absolutely. I mean, the thing is,
it's a divot in it, right? Yeah, it's like a big
divot. And I've got a variety of stones. I tend to card around them stones and things, but I think I need to. And I've got some small diamond plates. But I say plates. I mean, they're literally 1 inch by 3 inches. They're tiny, it's like little plastic wallet pockets type thing, and. They're useful. They're fine for certain things, but I need to. I think it's been on my kind of to-do find list for ages, like several years, to actually kind of sort out sharpening system that is something to be usable. I mean, I think at the moment I tend to use, like in the kitchen, I tend to use just a honing steel, which is honing rather than sharpening.
Yeah. Right.
But certainly my favourite knife that I use sort of daily has now reached a point where I need to actually do something with the edge properly, because the steel doesn't really do anything anymore. But I want to get that right. It's a nice knife. It wasn't expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. And it's a nice knife, and I kind of want to do that right, because it is getting to the point where it's not as safe as it should be, because ideally kitchen knife should be super sharp, and it's sharp, but it's not super sharp.
Right.
So there are times where it kind of I have to work a bit harder rather than letting the knife just do the work.
Yep.
But finding that kind of finding the right system. Yeah, I'm not going to take it out to the tinkerage and stick it on grinding stones on a bench grinder.
No, that's like using one of those. There's all these different kitchen gadgets that are purported to be for sharpening knives, but they're just for ruining knives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think far too many bad experiences with them myself.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there might be someone. There's probably someone around you in your town or something that could sharpen them properly. Most
possibly
have someone. But I mean, obviously you want to learn how to do it yourself, because
I would suggest for anyone wanting to learn how to sharpen a knife, I would avoid using the Steve House on Metalworks technique of the inverted
upside down angle grinder. Yeah,
inverted angle grinder to shop.
Held
Although
on
I have
device,
seen him do that in the flesh, and it is much safer than it looks. But it is just absolutely the weirdest thing you can just turn around and see someone doing.
Yeah,
it's
probably not for a kitchen knife. Definitely better for a axe or something.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you can. There's all different things you can attach to an angle grinder, so you could probably get something that was appropriate.
Yeah, I quite like the Scary Sharp system, the kind of the glass plate with.
Yep. I think that's
different grades of emery. That's quite a cheap one as well. It's getting the angles
easy.
Right. That's the kind of. I mean, like a chisel or a bench, a plane blade.
Yeah.
I think is relatively straightforward because it's a straight edge.
Yep.
Yeah, that's you set your angle, a honing guide, easy. But when you've got a kitchen knife with a 7-inch, 8-inch blade that curves, and the curve changes. It's flat along kind of the back sort of third, and then at the front third, obviously it's curving around to go to the tip. Yeah, it's just a touch harder. I think it's just kind of. It's like the Project Farm video. You got those systems with the you kind of got a holder with a rod, and then you've got a diamond plate on the end of a rod, and you kind of
what I put on my in my wish list.
Yeah, and I kind of know. Yes, I think Honor from Dies in Every Film uses that.
Johnny from Bespoke Blood Designs as well.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people using that. That I think is a really good system.
Yeah,
for knives.
I think I need to see one in action and actually try it, because in my head I can't. The maths of it, and the angles. Because I agree. I'm thinking triangles, and you've got to pivot at a certain point, so that sets kind of the height on the kind of the vertical of the sort of right angle triangle. You've then got kind of the horizontal, which is going to your blade. So your hypotenuse is sort of set, but the length of that hypotenuse is going to change. Because it's got to be curved.
But the difference is, it is always going to be more consistent. Even if the angle is going to change along the blade, it's going to be much more consistent than you are without it.
Oh, interesting. Yes. So it's just close enough, a system?
Yeah, it doesn't. It might vary from 8 degrees to 6 degrees over the length of the blade, but that doesn't matter, because it's going to be it's going to be correct and at an angle. It's not going to be like that, which is what you would do if you were doing it just by hand. Having that guide rod is going to keep an angle. Because otherwise you'd have to have it a set distance away from the whole profile of the blade, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You couldn't do it any other way to get the same angle, but it doesn't need to be the same angle.
No, like I guess because when I used to have a bushcraft knife, though I would actually vary the grind angle along the blade deliberately, so that certain sections would actually be sharper, and other sections still be sharp, but perhaps would be
longer lasting,
coarser. So kind of at the near to the hilt, I would have it so that it would be stupidly sharp, but towards the kind of front of the blade, so kind of maybe a third, the kind of third point closer to the tip, it would be sharp but not as sharp, but it would be a flatter, depending how you want to kind of measure it. I'm not a knife expert, so kind of at the kind of sharpest point it would be very, very thin, but then it would broaden out, so perhaps a steeper angle as you kind of went forward, so that it would be more robust and stronger, because a finer blade is going to take less damage before it kind of is no longer sharp. So if you were trying to cut into a stick, you would use the kind of the front third. It'd be sharp enough for splitting or something like that. But if I needed to kind of whittle a feather stick for lighting a fire, you'd use the really sharp bit because you want then good control and fine action. I guess I don't think of doing that with a kitchen knife. I generally kind of want a similar sharpness all the way along. It's something I need to look into, because sharpening systems, I mean, something like the Scary Sharp system or kind of a homemade version is pretty cheap. A flat piece of glass or granite, emery paper. But then the Lansky systems are, particularly the kind of the better quality ones, are a bit more expensive.
Maybe that'll be the thing when I finally, get around to actually buying mine. Once I've gone through and sharpened everything in the house, I'll just stick it in the post to you to have a play with, and then you can sharpen one of your knives and then measure the grind angle across the blade, and then have a moan at me.
On it.
Yeah, there you go.
This one's 6.8 degrees. This bit.
Right.
Yeah. Or we'll have to meet up. You can show me how to use it.
Absolutely.
That'd be better.
I mean, to be fair, you'll have probably seen more videos on how to use it than I have.
Yeah. Right. Should we think about things that have been grabbing our attention? So, Jamie, you've just mentioned Project Farm, but we'll come back to you on other things. We normally let the guests go first. So for the benefit of those who are listening for the first time, kind of our attention grabbers aren't necessarily one thing. It's not necessarily a video, as some podcasts do. Is just kind of what's your video of the week?
Anything that's grabbed your attention.
Anything.
Sure.
Projects you've been working on, projects you've been working towards, projects that you've just done, books, anything, and more than one if you want. So, Dave, what's been grabbing your attention?
Okay, so I haven't read any books. I should read some books. I'll have to go back to the list of books I was going to read, but I'll skip that for now. So Tim Sway just put out a new video. He did a recording of the Hollow Corridor band. So every instrument was made from Hollow Corridors. Drum set, guitar, double bass, a bunch of different guitars. So, and that was a lot of fun. And this song, when he created a new song for that, and he kind of basically supports his message of reusing things and thinking about the impact you have on the planet. So it's pretty interesting.
Tim's very cool.
Tim's good. Yeah. I think there was talk, Jamie. I don't know if you can remember. There was talk that he might be coming. He was due to go over to the 2020 Maker Central.
Yes.
Hopefully, he'll make it to the 2022 one.
Fingers crossed.
That would be cool. Yeah.
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 Because he does work with Vectric.
Right. Yep.
Who were one of the main sponsors.
Right. Yeah. That'd be
Maker
cool.
Central. So.
Not to show off.
Oh yeah.
The squares.
Yep, the squares are great. I have those. Do you have the Square X? They're the small rulers.
No, I don't. I've got the two. I've got the stainless steel and then the
clear and the regular. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have all of his. I think I have all his tools now.
I couldn't get a square. Couldn't justify the kind of the spends on it, so I made my own. So there's a Tales from the Tinkerage video about that,
which is a fantastic ode to it.
I'm gonna have to check that out. You may have made that before I started following.
Yeah, I will put. I called it the alternative square, I think.
That's great.
It's took quite a bit of serious making, that one. So definitely worth watching.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first one he made was all handmade without any kind of fancy tools or anything. So.
Mine again. I following off. I didn't use any fancy tools. It was definitely homemade.
It was
great.
An homage, wasn't it? It's a good ode to the Tim Sway version.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd appreciate it. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, he's you don't have to buy my stuff; just make it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got. If I remember rightly, I did get a mention on Reclaimed Audio because I did reach out to Tim and sort of share it with him before I released
awesome.
it. Yeah.
It's great.
So that was good. Anything else? Is that?
Yeah, I have one other. I mean, there's probably a million things, but I don't want to. the thing that came to mind was relevant to our discussion was Jonathan Katz Moses had he just did a video about like how the importance of dust collection and how it how it actually works, and talking about the different levels of filtration, and it was pretty interesting, and it was great because it wasn't like sensational or anything. It really talked about the facts, and it was a good straightforward explanation of like how these things work and what it actually means. I don't have any dust collection, but
they're well researched. Yeah. Mine's a shop
it's
vac.
a really good video. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does make some good videos. I like his sort of style. Yeah. He's definitely kind of, like you say, he's not sensationalist. It's very kind of it's based in research as well. It's not just kind of this is the way I've always done it. That's the key phrase for today, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's lots of callbacks in this episode.
Hey, we're professional podcasters. We are, yeah.
Right.
Well,
I've been doing it for over half a year. That's got to count, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
That's right.
Now, unless I'm mistaken as well, you happen to be wearing a shirt that you made at the moment.
Oh, that's true. I did wear it, but my camera is not. There you go. Now you can see it.
Yeah. So, because obviously
new...
insider knowledge from Makers on Zoom having coffee, I know you've been doing quite a lot of screen printing lately. So...
Yep. Yeah. Well, I've been trying to learn how to do it, and this is my first design that wasn't a joke, based on something that I seen on someone else's YouTube. So, but
very cool.
Yep. Yeah. So I came up with this concept. Makers love problem solving so much that they make up new problems. That's their main hobby.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said before about the repairing, especially with the IT stuff, is fix it until it breaks.
Right.
So that seems to be applies to makers quite well.
Yeah.
It's the old if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the maker equivalent seems to be if it ain't broke, it doesn't have enough features.
There you go.
So, Jamie, what's been grabbing your attention this week?
Travel, really. I travelled up to the motherland. Went and stayed with my mum. So my daughter had a day off school on Friday, so I managed to sort of wrangle the day off work and took my daughter up to see my mum, see some of the family, went to see my dad, my siblings and stuff. It took some of my leatherwork kit, so did a bit of teaching the relatives, a bit of playing carving leather, and made some coasters with mum and stuff like that. So it's a bit of getting away and a bit of relaxing and a bit of seeing the family. So not a lot of anything else, but it was good and wholesome. So I got to had dinner with my brother and sister-in-law, who tune in fairly often and quite enjoy listening to us as they sort of drift off during the evenings. So it's a good old natter. So it was,
you're saying we put people to sleep?
No, they're just very busy people, so they fall asleep halfway through our podcast, whether we're talking about interesting stuff or not. Well, that's the excuse he gave us anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll take you to that. Yeah.
They're
busy.
Yeah, we're going to drag my brother on the show at some point anyway, so we'll grill him.
That'd be fun.
Oh, for sure, definitely, yeah.
Absolutely. Hopefully he'll be at Maker Central as well. He's been at the last one. How about you, Andy? What's been grabbing your attention this week?
Me? Well, as previously mentioned, still making a bit of slow progress on the Full Tools Treasure Trade.
Yes.
So hopefully,
Gonna get it
hopefully
done
by next week. Yes, by next week I should be able to say that's done and dusted.
It's done. Yeah.
So yeah, still a bit more to do. I had a new tool. I won't say what it is because I'll give things away. But I had a new tool arrive today for the next bit that I've got to do. So that'll just kind of maybe not as entirely necessary, but it's just going to make a nice nice sort of finish to the thing I'm making.
Is this a new frying pan that would help with
no,
the bribe
not
that's
frying
going
pan,
in with it?
no, not a frying pan.
The bribe.
We did buy some frying pans a little while ago, a new frying pan. Still need to get a couple more. We normally have about 4 frying pans, but we're down to kind of sort of 4 different sizes, but we're down to 3, but 2 of them are virtually the same size because the surface finished on it. So yeah, I do need to look for a new Welsh cake pan. Yeah, that's in the hunt.
Oh my goodness! I can't believe you let that happen.
Yeah, it does. It's just one of those things. Other things that grabbed my attention this week: new video from Matt Perks DIY, making a submarine, a model submarine,
What?
but a working submarine. I mean, the guy's just so smart. I mean, that's why he's got kind of a million. Well, no, several million. I think he's on multiple millions of views, subscribers rather, on YouTube. But he made
3.46.
he went from first principles as well. So he made a submarine, and the buoyancy was produced by taking a couple of giant syringes, swapping them over to a screw drive, so you could actually sort of change the internal volume of air by taking sort of water to the outside by moving these syringes. So I think there's going to be continuation because he was working with did a collaboration with Project Air channel, and so the guy from Project Air had made a submarine as well, but both of them have more work to do. Matt's was more successful in their first sort of try, but he makes the stuff with superbly high quality. I mean, he does a lot of things like PC desks, as in making a desk with a built-in PC.
Wow.
Or a variety of computers, but the standard of his work, given that he's basically working in his garden or just in a studio, not a workshop, usually with most of his tools are just regular DIY tools,
super cheap,
nothing
super
special.
accessible
tools.
Tends to pick nice materials.
A sander and a jigsaw and a drill. But then he will have specialist tools, so he makes his own battery packs. So he's got a battery spot welder, which is obviously very specific. I'd like to. I know he does occasionally do podcasts. It'd be nice to get him on to have a chat because he's a very interesting chap, and it'd be nice to know a bit more about him because he doesn't share huge amounts. I've heard him on one podcast, so have a.
Oops. There's a cat.
It'd be nice to kind of have a chat with him and kind of get to know a little bit more about kind of his background and why he takes the approach of let's build it with kind of nice brass fittings and some nice walnut rather than just kind of slapping it together as most of us do in some respects. So it's nice work. And the other thing that caught my attention this week, not quite so nice, for those involved in the 3D printing world, maybe familiar with a company called E3D, who make they're particularly famous for their Hemera hot end.
The whole ecosystem, the hot ends and extruder systems and things like that.
But one of their Sanjay Mortimer, who's one of their kind of founders,
co-founders,
key brain behind it, passed away about a week, 10 days ago, at age 32, which is not good. My understanding is that he did have some underlying health issues. There's a video.
We don't know the cause as yet.
No. But since again, throw back to some previous videos. Billy Rubin put a post up on Twitter referring to a video in which Sanjay had made sort of comments essentially defending the fact that he does have kind of had hidden disabilities and health issues, and the fact that he was so difficult, isn't it, when people kind of pass, you still want to use present tense, very much neurodiverse rather than neurotypical, and clearly and the I can't remember who put the video out, but they had actually had to remove lots and lots of comments that essentially kind of were bullying, and it's a sad thing that the maker community is fantastic, but there are people who kind of merge into the maker community who I would say perhaps aren't of the community, but actually do put out nastiness into people. They pick on people who are different, and there's a lot of people who are neurodiverse and different in the maker community, and some people just seem to think that because people are putting things into the public domain that they can just attack, and they probably don't even think they're necessarily attacking, but they just think, oh, well, I can say what I like, and it's frustrating, and it's a
well, that's been an ongoing thing in the last few months anyway, isn't it? Is with with William Osman, his recent videos, and getting in touch with other makers and other content creators, and people are in the public eye. The keyboard warriors and the trolls and things like that. It's
and they forget that there are real people with real feelings.
Exactly.
Who are putting things out not because they are necessarily making money. And yes, some people do make money, and some people make very good living out of putting things on YouTube, for example. But they're putting things out. They're doing that because they want to share. They want to show their ways of doing things. They want to inspire. They want to educate. They want to motivate. And it's frustrating when people kind of. There are makers, and we've talked about this. I mean, Billy talked about this on her episode, who are getting to the point where they're going, I don't want to put things out anymore. I don't want to share. I don't want to publicize. I don't want to make videos, because when I do, I just get crap thrown back, and it
wears you down.
It's not good. It does. It does wear people down. And
for sure.
It's a bit rubbish. But it's just sad that I mean, it's life. People die at any age, and it's sad when people do die when they are young and in their 30s. We, as you said, Jamie, we don't know yet. We don't.
We might never know.
We might never know.
It's
not our right to know. It's.
I think the thing is with Sanjay had such a hugely positive influence, not just on the maker community or anything like that, but on the work that he put in with his team at E3D and in general, which the work will continue. But he had such a hugely positive influence on the maker community, on 3D printing, on additive manufacturing, and on the way we produce things, and it is a huge loss. Fortunately, his work and his vision is going to continue. But it's pretty sad for a large number of us. It's hit some of us pretty hard.
On more positive notes.
Indeed.
Dave, where can people find you if they want to kind of find more of your work?
Is this Dave's introduction?
Here we go. I like to make stuff. I mainly on Instagram. It's Dave Bauer Art. That's pretty much where I post everything. I do have a website where I sometimes post some of my crazy ramblings. It's just davebauer.art. So
Cool URL.
That's pretty easy. I couldn't think of a good name, so I just used my name for everything, and it seems to.
That's a good name. Yeah.
To work.
Yeah.
So easy.
And I'll just add there that I would say they're more than ramblings. I would say that there's some very thought-provoking posts.
I appreciate that.
What you write, I find them interesting to read, and it makes me think. And that's why that's one of the reasons why in episode 30, so 2 episodes time, will be our next group chat, which we're trying to do every sort of 10 episodes. We're trying to do a sort of a group chat, and we'll be talking about the difference between art, craft, and design, or kind of. I think design's art and craft.
Yeah. That should be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I've been writing a bunch of notes every time I get a crazy idea in my head. So hopefully I can
fantastic.
Make it an interesting discussion.
Yes, because hopefully I'll chase those. I need to chase up all the guests this next week. I'll try and do. I normally kind of contact guests kind of midweek before they're due to be on to kind of sort of do the sort of pre-shows sort of information and get their kind of.
I think we're going to need a run-up, perhaps.
But we've got Steve House. We've got Steve House coming in. Got Andy Berkey, and we've got Ali
from Geeky Fair.
Ali, yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good chat. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Indeed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Right. I think on that note.
2.5
hours. Yeah. We'll say goodbye to the audience, and next week we'll see you back next week, and we'll be chatting to Rasmus.
We will.
We'll try and be. We'll be nice to him.
Yeah. We're going to have to be good cop, bad cop, or something.
I'll be nice to him. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
We love him, really. It's affectionate ribbing that we get.
He'd be suspicious if everybody was nice to him, I think, at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he would, yes. I think you're right there. I think he'd probably be very, very suspicious. Maybe we should do that at Maker Central. Just arrange to get everyone to be really nice.
Nobody.
Really nice. Give him loads of hugs.
Yep.
Yeah, and no kind of bad mouthing, no insulting.
No names.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
And by the end of the weekend, he'd be absolutely paranoid.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just realised we're still live. Oh dear,
we're still live. I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he doesn't have to cut that part out.
On that note, goodbye, folks.
Good night.
Oh, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, thank you for coming on.